Today on Dead with Dave, I'm going to show you why my haunt videos sucked. I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of central controllers. Rich gives us his real view on extreme haunts. And I'm going to give a big thank you to my pandemic members. Hello and welcome to the Dead with Dave show, a show that talks about all things Halloween and haunt related. Today on the show, we're going to start off with how to make videos that don't suck. With the big night approaching very, very quickly, we have to get our asses into gear. But I'm not talking about actually building our haunts. You know that already. I'm talking about getting ready to record our haunts. Because just as we pretty much only get one shot at showing our haunts, we also only get one shot at shooting our haunts. So it's best to get ready now, so we don't fuck it all up once the time has come to pull out those cameras. Now, one of the best ways to get ready and to improve your haunt video making skills is to look back at your last year's haunt video and realize your own mistakes. So today, that's exactly what we're going to do. I'm going to go over why my last haunt video sucked and what I will do different in the future so I don't repeat the same mistakes twice. If you guys didn't see it yet, a couple of weeks ago, I put out my 2013 haunt video. And even though it came out okay, I personally really didn't like it. And I know I could have done so much better. So let's go through it and just pick the shit apart and figure out what I could have done different. Number one, the video was too dark in a lot of sections. Now, even though I just spent the last two episodes talking about how to light your haunt for video, I got it all wrong for my own video. That's some bullshit, huh? I don't even take my own freaking advice. Now, my Dr. Death's workshop scene has a lot of lighting in it. I have 8 colored floodlights, which highlight each of the props, 3 white overhead lights to light the overall space, 3 white work lights that I use for my flashing lights on my gas chamber and my electro bed, and I have a 1000 watt strobe light for when the scissor mech comes out. That's a lot of lights for a space that's only 10 foot by 20 foot. And you can see from my pictures that it's pretty freaking bright in there. But here's the problem. When the show is playing, most of the lights go off. And the only lights that stay on are the 1 or 2 lights that highlight the one prop that is being demonstrated at that part of the show, which left the rest of the haunt in the dark. Now, this is exactly what I wanted for the real life viewing. I wanted my guests to be focused on the one section of the haunt that I wanted them to focus on. And at the exact time I wanted them to focus there. So only lighting one section at a time keeps people looking right where I wanted them to look. But even though that worked great in real life, the video turned out way too dark. So next time, to keep this from happening again, I'm going to add a couple of white floodlights shining down from the ceiling overhead to spread out a nice even flow of light throughout the entire haunt. I'm going to put these lights on dimmer switches so I can adjust it perfectly to get that precise amount of light in there and not to make it too bright, because that would be even worse. It's going to be, a little trial and error, but at least I know, no matter what, there has to be more light in there when I'm filming. The second reason my haunt video sucked was because I deleted my goddamn audio file. You see, I was smart this year, and I recorded separate audio from my video with a shotgun mic. I wanted clear sound from each of the props as they were in action, and using a shotgun mic let me get close to each of the props, making sure it sounded just like you were there in person. And let me tell you, it worked fantastic. The sound was clear. You heard everything like you were there. The trash can traumas were loud. My air cannons actually sounded like air cannons, and not just that little pff of air you hear. You can't truly hear what an air cannon sounds like on video, but in this separate audio recording, you heard it perfectly. Well, when I went back a few months later to put the video together, my audio file was gone. Don't know where it went. It was there. Now it's not. I probably moved it into another file without realizing it and then deleted it by accident. I'm not really sure. All I know is it's gone. And it sucks. So to keep that from happening again, my new rule is to keep full backups of all my raw video and audio files in a safe place, off of my computer. I do have a pretty elaborate backup system that constantly backs up to an external hard drive. But if I delete a file off my computer, after a certain amount of time, the deleted files get purged out of my backup drive to save on space. If I kept all my raw files, I would have terabytes of video that would just sit there and do nothing, clogging up my nice, sleek workflow. Don't want to do that. So now I'm going to save all my raw files to my cloud drive so I can't lose it or delete it by accident. It was my fault in the first place. I know I suck, but I've learned my lesson and hopefully I won't do it again. I mean, the sound in the video was okay, but the sound from the shotgun mic was just awesome. And it sucks that I lost it. Third reason why my haunt video sucked was I should have took a lot more pictures. Man, I thought I took a crap ton of pictures of my haunt, but in reality, I didn't. You see, I run my haunt for 2 days. The first day is my trial run day, where I just have, a couple friends and family come over to see the haunt, and I can test it out, see what works, what doesn't work, do my final tweaks before the big Halloween night. And since I'm not usually bogged down with people, I do all the video and pictures then. Well, this year I had a lot of people show up the first night, and I just lost track of time. I was just taking pictures in between when the people were coming and going, so I thought I was snapping away and I had plenty of pictures, but I wound up with only 37. What the hell is 37 pictures? I normally take hundreds of pictures, pick out the ones I love and toss the rest in the trash, but I wound up with 37. So next year, to keep this from happening again, I will put some dedicated time aside and stay out after everybody has left and just take a crap load of pictures. I mean, you really can't have too many pictures, but you certainly can have too little. Last but certainly not least on why my video sucked, I should have put a lot more thought into my scare cam. I did have a camera recording most of the night, trying to capture the screams and reactions of my guests. You saw some of that footage. But that camera just kept shutting off, and I had to keep moving it to find the right spot. And then I was recording the haunt in between, and I missed some great scares. It was a huge freaking mess. Next time, I will have a dedicated camera just for the scare cam that will be set up in the perfect location to capture my guest reactions ahead of time. It's also going to be plugged into the wall, so I don't have to worry about the batteries dying over and over again. And I'm going to mount it to something so it doesn't get knocked down, or I don't take it to record the haunt. It's just going to be sitting there, mounted, and being a scare cam, is that's what you're called. You're a scare cam, so be a freaking scare cam. I mean, the scare cam is a great add to any video, and every year it's the last thing on my mind when I'm doing the haunt. Next time, I will have it all set up and ready well in advance. Now, there were some other things I would have changed in my video, but we're running very long here on time and we have to move on. But I hope this will make you take a step back and look at your last year's haunt video and see what you could have done different to make it just a little bit better. You see, mistakes are going to happen, but if you learn from those mistakes, you will continue to move forward and get better with your haunt video making skills year after year. It's just like you get better year after year with actually building your haunt. So get those cameras out and start recording. On this segment of How to Make Shit, we're going to talk about centralized controllers for your haunt. Whenever I put out a haunt video, the questions just start rolling in on how I control it all. The problem with these questions is that there is no real easy answer. I just can't say it's blah 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 controller, part number 666, and I got on Amazon, here's your link. We all wish, right? But I built mine over time with parts that are probably no longer available, and I probably would recommend something else anyway. But I do want to help. So today we're going to start at the beginning. And we're going to talk about the top 5 things you need to think about before you jump into doing a central control system for your own haunt. I think this is going to be a great place to start if you're thinking about adding this kind of a system, and will keep you from being blindsided with all the headaches that I've had to deal with while building mine and running mine. So here we go. We're going to go fast. Pay attention. Try to keep up. We got to get this segment done quickly. So first, let's define what a central control system is. A central control system is a controller that controls every aspect of your haunt from one single location. Lights, strobes, solenoids, flash crackers, complex props, sound, fog machines. Basically everything and anything that needs to be plugged in will be plugged directly into the central controller. Everything. Now, there are a couple different versions of these around. Most are hand-built. I really don't know anyone that sells complete centralized controllers for haunters. Unless you go with like a DMX system or something like that, but you are very limited to what you can plug into those, and they are very, very expensive. You could also maybe find something that the Christmas people use for their light displays. But those systems are meant for complex lighting, and I'm not really sure you can control everything a haunter would need to control with it. But hey, if anyone can hack a Christmas system, it's definitely a home haunter, right? But to keep this simplified, I'm only going to talk about a controller like mine, fully automated controllers. Now, this list will also work for manual switching controllers. Manual switching is where you have a bunch of toggle switches lined up on a board, and you just, flip the switches to activate the prop or the light that you want activated at that time. This is a very low-tech way to do it, but also a really cool way to control your haunt. It's like acting like the Grand Wizard of Oz. You're just flipping switches, playing that you're the god of your haunt. It's a really cool system. I've thought about doing it myself. Holy shit, do we got to get moving. Here's another 10-minute segment coming our way. Okay, number 1. First thing you have to know is if you're going to build one of your own, it's going to be expensive. There's no way around it, and there's no way to make it cheap. You're playing with a lot of electricity here, and the last thing you want to do is cheap it on your parts. You can save a couple bucks here and there by shopping around, but it's still not going to be cheap. If you're going to use shitty parts and buy the cheap China brand stuff, please don't involve me. I don't want anything to do with it. If you want to burn your house down, that's up to you. Please leave me out of it. If you're using shitty parts, that's on you. The total cost of my controller was between $1,600 and like $2,000. So if you want it, expect to pay for it. But in my opinion, it is so worth the money. I absolutely love my controller. Next thing you have to think about is building it. As I just said, you're not going to find one pre-built, or at least find one that will do what you want it to do, so you will need the skills to do it yourself. You're going to be hacking store-bought items, running wires the correct way, figuring out amperage, wattage, and voltage. And you will need other above basic wiring know-how. I'll say that again. Above basic wiring know-how. Basic electrical will not get this job done. You will need to know a little bit more than how to change a light switch, if you know what I mean. But don't get me wrong. If you are serious about building one, all of this can be learned, and there is always a crap load of help online if you find yourself stuck. But if you have never worked with electronics or electrical before, this really shouldn't be your first stab at it. Now, the third thing you need to think about is getting the parts. In a future episode, I'm going to go through building a central controller, and we'll come up with some sort of a parts list. I have some major modifications I want to do to mine, so I might be doing a complete teardown. This is why I'm starting this now. It'll be a good reason for me to do it, but that's not going to be till next season. But we'll start this all now, and then we'll revisit it after Halloween. But you will need to get all the parts, and even if I give you a complete parts list, what I can get here isn't always what some of you will be able to get where you're at. So finding a decent substitute might have to be figured out. That's always fun for me, though. I love the research, in any build, seeing what's better for my situation or what's cheaper. It's just a pretty fun challenge. The fourth thing you have to think about, and what I didn't realize when I first got going into doing my central controller, was the added cost to hook up all your stuff into the controller. Like I said, every prop, every light, every fog machine, every speaker, everything, it all gets plugged into it. So if you think about it, say you start off with just 20 lights the first year. That's 20 extension cords. And at $7 to $15 a cord, that's $160 to $300 just in cords. For my haunt, just in wiring, cost me around $2,000. That's for my 120 volt cords, my 12 volt cords, and my speaker wire. But I do have a small yard where 50-foot lengths work fine. If you have a large yard, or if you have to stick your controller way out back somewhere away from the haunt, 100-foot, 150-foot cords are a lot more expensive. These little things are going to add up. Okay, last thing on our list today when thinking about your central control system. If the controller fails on Halloween night, your entire haunt will be down. Nothing will work. If you had individual controllers for each prop and one goes out, that's okay. It's only one prop. But when your entire haunt is plugged into one place and it goes out, all you have is darkness. And it's happened to me. I fixed it on the fly, luckily, and it was only out for about 5 minutes. But that 5 minutes was a huge, holy shit, what the fuck am I going to do now moment. In the 7 years, though, since I've went fully central controlled, I've only had a couple of minor problems. So it's not that huge of an issue, but it can happen, and you have to prepare for the worst. And the worst being your haunt not running on the big Halloween night, and that would suck. So that's going to round out the top 5 things you need to think about before getting into central control systems for your own haunted house. It seems like a lot more headache than it's worth, but if you're up for the challenge, it's so freaking fun to do. And once I rebuild mine to better suit my haunt needs now, things have changed since I originally built it, so I need a little bit different, functions now. But once that's all done, it's going to be so much better. If you have any questions about central control systems, please leave them in the comments below. I will try to answer them when I do the controller rebuild segment. So make sure you think of some really good questions and, maybe try to get some ideas of what a central controller can do for your own haunt. It's going to be a fun build, and I really can't wait to get in there and start rewiring things.
Here it is September, and we're really starting to get into the swing of things with our haunts and displays. So I figured, what better time than now to stir up some shit and discuss something controversial. What I'm talking about are extreme haunts, and I mean really, really extreme haunts. The ones where you basically enter the labyrinth and don't come out again until you're through to the other side. Sometimes hours later, after what can literally be called a harrowing experience. Everyone has their own idea of what Halloween is all about, or how it should be displayed. Some people like the cute tchotchkes with glitter-covered skulls, and others like kid-friendly blow-up displays, and others still like darker fare with ghosts, goblins, zombies, and the macabre. There's nothing wrong with any of these haunts, as there's no one-size-fits-all rule by which we all must adhere. So too with professional haunts, Although most tend towards darker themes, there's a vast array of sets that comprise the pro-haunt community, from castles and dungeons to monasteries and abbeys, clowns, circuses, sideshows, and lately Chroma Death 3D paint. That's a whole new experience that people have had. And while I have my own taste for what I prefer, I've had fun scares when going through any of these kinds of haunts. And I don't really begrudge anyone for trying to up the ante when they're going for those screams from their guests. But lately, these extreme haunts have me rethinking this anything goes attitude. And I'm wondering if the idea of scaring people isn't being taken to, well, an extreme. This all came about because I came across a teaser spot for McCamey Manor, boasting of making a guy pee his pants and cried during his excruciating ordeal of going through the show. Apparently after being choked, asphyxiated, sprayed with water, and having blood spit on him, not to mention being groped, mauled, and manhandled, he apparently emerged thankful for still being alive. For me, this sounded more like a multi-hour exercise in kidnapping and humiliation. Prior year videos have shown women literally crying and begging for the abuse to stop. Now, I'm not singling out McCamey Manor here, as there are any number of extreme haunts these days, and they seem to be growing in number. There's one called Blackout, I believe, where they throw a hood over your head, toss you in a van, and take you to the haunt, and you have to endure a similar torturous experience. Some reviewers have said they've been waterboarded, made to walk barefoot over used condoms, and worse things. And I've seen haunts for like the cult in New Hampshire, which apparently didn't run last year, where you're bound, gagged, and forced to drink urine, though it's probably fake, at least I hope so. And perhaps to a lesser extent, Haunted Hoochie in Ohio, where guests are subjected to extreme physical contact. I still have to wonder, what is the point of having these kinds of experiences? As haunters, most of us want to get a startle out of our guests, let alone a good scare. But is there really enjoyment to be had in reducing someone to tears, filling them with real fear, and inflicting abuse on them? More and more, I'm coming to the conclusion that there's something off about these haunts, and that there's a sadistic streak in those running them and working at them. And that should give us pause. Sure, the guests are going willingly into these attractions, and supposedly there's a waiting list to get into McCamey Manor from all the people that want to experience it. So I'm not suggesting they shouldn't be allowed to operate these haunts, or whatever you want to call them. What I am asking, though, is why would you want to run a haunt like this? Is it really fun to create abject terror in a person? It strikes me as a bit perverse for someone to want to do that to someone else. People go to haunted houses because it's a safe fear. As scared as people get at traditional haunts, there are obviously safety nets in place beyond the chicken exits, so that as much as you're afraid, you still know you're safe. Not so with these extreme haunts, where tearing down those safeguards is every bit as important as creating a truly horrifying experience. Haunts can be anything we want them to be. And for pro haunts, we extend to them a little more leeway to up the scare factor just a bit. But I find this new extreme haunt a disturbing trend, one that has nothing to do with Halloween or haunting, other than that people wouldn't allow themselves to be subjected to this abuse except around this time of year. Although on one level, I can see where a no-holds-barred haunt can sound intriguing, but as it relates to Halloween and haunting, I think these haunts just go beyond the pale. Obviously, many haunters aren't going to agree with me. I probably pissed a few people off already. They think they should be able to take things as far as they can, no questions asked. I don't agree. Although I don't think Halloween should be syrupy sweet, I think this new trend of haunt torture porn is just too extreme. What about you? Let me know in the comments below whether you think this kind of haunting is beyond what the craft should be about, or if you think it's just a natural progression of where Halloween is heading. Regardless of your opinion though, the clock is ticking down to Halloween. That means if you haven't started building yet, and I'm one of those, then now is the time to begin. Get out there, get building, and happy haunting.
Wow, that was an interesting segment from Rich this month. If you agree with what Rich has to say, please leave your comments down below. But if you disagree, please leave all your comments on Rich's Facebook page. Don't put them here. But actually, I do agree with a little bit of what Rich is saying. Actually, a lot of bit of what Rich is saying. I do understand how it can be intriguing to see these types of extreme haunts on YouTube and Facebook, stuff like that. But in person, I'm not really sure that I would want to go and do that. I mean, the touching part's not that bad. You know, the spitting of fluids into your mouth and forced to eat things that you shouldn't be eating and stuff like that. That's not what I'm into at all with Halloween. But I can see why people would like that. People love horror movies and you want to be inside the horror movie. So I understand that part, but extreme haunts aren't for me. I like the more, traditional haunt myself. But to each your own. You're in that, go for it. Me, not so much. So, anyways, let's move on and get to the ending of the Dead with Dave show. And before I do end this episode, I want to give a big thank you to all my Pandemic members. I got a sudden surge of new Pandemic members this month, which is really cool. And I just want to give you guys a big thank you. And I want to let you know that I really appreciate all the support. As you know, all the money that I make from my website goes right back into this show and the website itself. Every single penny of it. And to be totally honest with you, without your support, I would never be able to put this show together like I do now. I try my hardest to constantly upgrade the show. I try to make the quality better. I try to bring you guys better content each and every month. And without your help, I wouldn't be able to do that. So thank you to my members. And, even if you're not a member, maybe you just bought a set of prop plans or a t-shirt, or even something as simple as sharing one of my posts on Facebook or directing somebody to my YouTube channel, anything like that, it all helps me out to bring you Dead with Dave. And if you're new to the show and you don't know what a Pandemic membership is, it's kind of a way to show your support for the Dead with Dave show, but at the same time, get some really cool downloadable products and special perks in return. Now, it's only $30 a year to be a member, about the same price as a good magazine subscription, and you can cancel it at any time. I don't hold you to anything, but there is at least a couple of $100 in downloadable products right now on the website, and I continue to add more and more as time goes on. For example, right now, you can download instantly all my prop mechanism plans, all my video and projection effects, a crap ton of Halloween sound effects, Halloween music, and different Halloween soundscapes. This past week, I just added 21 new Halloween music soundtracks that are 100% royalty-free, meaning they're not going to get flagged here on YouTube or anywhere else, so you can use them anywhere you want, and you don't have to worry about YouTube messing with your videos, which happens to me all the time. Royalty-free is a must. Also, I have some original horror movie soundtracks that I have licensed for a small fee. I basically pay per member to be able to have those for you, so download away. Plus, I have one of the largest Halloween font collections on the internet. All the writing and titling you see here on the show, the titling on the Dead with Dave Home Haunters Awards, and every word on my website are fonts that Pandemic members can download right now from the website. There really is some really cool stuff over there. Check it out. I'm sure you're going to find it worth it. And like I said, it really helps support the show. Okay, I'm done with my spiel. Thank you very much. That's it. That's the end of this episode of Dead with Dave. I hope you've all enjoyed. This is the last episode of Dead with Dave till after Halloween. So good luck with your haunts. Halloween is on a Friday this year, so we should all expect a little bit of a better turnout with the trick-or-treaters, which is always good. So good luck to all you. I will be watching your progress from YouTube and Facebook, and I will be posting my own build on my Dead with Dave Facebook page, so make sure you go check that out. Should be an awesome year. Make sure you click the subscribe button. See you next time. Good night.